Hello, folks. I'm Dave Aldo,
And I'm Kevin Kemp.
and we are going to put on a show for you today about the girls' 2017 Mansfield Hornets soccer team. Kevin and I have been doing the filming and the announcing of the team for the last several years, and it's been a historic run the last couple of years. The program is growing. And the team is playing some beautiful soccer. So what we'd like to do today, we're going to get to the captains, our three varsity captains, in a little bit. But what we'd like to do is recap the season and look forward to the tournament, which is starting in just a couple days, Kevin.
It is, and the girls wrapped up their regular season yesterday, so real appropriate for us to be here today. And as Dave said, we're going to talk about 2017, but I'm going to actually go back a little bit in time because I think it really sets up what's happening with the program. And I'm going to go back all the way to probably 2010. And if you look at the program at that point, Coach Smith, Kevin Smith, who's coached in that entire time, has really been a very solid program, a program that you play 16 to 18 games a year, and I would say pretty consistently winning 10, 11, sometimes 12 games. Usually finishing second, third in the Hawk, every game competitive. You know, a couple rebuilding years in there, but for the most part, very competitive. And things really started to change, I think, when you started to look to the end of actually 2015, where again, we had a really good team. I think they had 12 wins that year. Their first playoff game was an away game, and they had to go away to a higher seed, and much to everybody's surprise, they won that game by a goal, actually by 2 goals, against Bridgewater Raynham, who'd only lost 2 games that entire year. The next week, we were off to Needham, and we ended up losing that game by 1 goal. But Needham went on to win the state championship. And I think everyone suddenly goes, wow, this Mansfield team out of the Hawk, not only have they been winning consistently, but they really showed us something at the end of the year. So let's go to last year. A lot of people thought this might be a rebuilding year, right? We had graduated 12 seniors, 12 plus seniors out of that 2015 team. So we had a whole bunch of sophomores coming in, a couple juniors, a couple seniors. A couple seniors were pretty good. We had Hannah Ryder, who was an all-state player, had 18 goals. And not rebuilding, they just actually reloaded. And last year went 14 wins, no losses, and 4 ties. So they went the entire year without losing a game. So we roll into this year. Now, again, I think that question was still there, Dave. Like, well, can we really just keep going, or are we going to miss Hannah Ryder, Emily Sullivan? We lost a senior goalkeeper. We lost a couple defenders. And I think it's showing the strength of the program and the group of girls this year. So just wrapped up a season in that we went 13 wins, 1 loss, and 2 ties. The girls combined for 51 goals, and most impressively, for the second straight year, they only gave up 12 goals all year. So you're averaging about 3.5, 3.7 goals a game, and you're giving up less than a goal a game. So clearly you're going to win a lot of games when you do it that way. I think the other thing that's important when you look back on this season, so our only loss was to King Philip, who's the team that we're splitting the Hawk title with this year. We had a rematch with King Philip a few weeks ago, and we tied them in the second match. And then our other tie came to a team, North Attleboro, who won the other division in the Hockomock. So even in the games that we didn't win, super competitive, and they were against really tough teams. So I think now, Dave, why don't we, how did we get to that point? How did the team become to that level, not only 2 years, but 3 years in a row? And maybe why don't you take a second and recap the forwards for us?
Yeah, this team has a lot of flexibility. And as Kevin said, every year you have to rebuild and see where your holes are and what you can fix. And there's sometimes players that move from one position to another based on what the coach needs. Sometimes in-game against a certain opponent, and sometimes over the course of the season. So for the forwards, we play a set 3-man front with a center forward and 2 wings. And we've got Ali Reef and Ali Bizot in the center of the field with Steph Kemp and Cassidy McMahon and Sid Mulkern and Amanda Mangano, all taking turns up at the top. And what Coach Smith has done, he loves the girls to not just stay in their positions, but move from the right and move to the left. And when he doesn't see that movement, he'll actually switch girls from the right side to the left side, from the middle out to the wings. And it's turned into a real dynamic group up there up front.
Sure has. When you start scoring 50 goals, there's a lot of people contributing there, so it's worked out really well. Take a little look at the midfield now. So, and again, in the setup, there's 3 midfielders typically. So the starters have been pretty typically going throughout the year. Bryn Anderson, a junior, plays one of the attacking mids. Emma Aldo, one of the captains, plays the other attacking mid. And then Melissa Reef plays what is called the holding mid. So she's kind of like that extra defender that's in there. And then off the bench, Katie Garvin has been jumping in quite a bit in there. And then I'd also say, going back to some of the flexibility, Ali Bizo, who we talked about as a forward, she'll drop back into the midfield at times. Amanda Mangano has dropped back into the midfield at times. I think to me what gets lost sometimes, especially when you look at a team like this, the midfield doesn't show up on the stats, right? So they're not scoring a lot of goals, and they might not get the credit for only giving up 12 goals. But that core group of girls is really responsible for both of those things happening because they're the connection. So if you see our offense, as Dave talked about, there's a lot of through balls that have to go through the midfield. That's not just kicked from the defense. So it gets built up in the midfield and then the ball sent through to one of the wings coming through. And then defensively, Melissa Reef is really kind of that fifth defender. She is sitting square in the middle and often marking the toughest player on the other team. So that midfield has done a great job this year going back and forth. The good news is there's also a whole bunch of other girls on the bench who've got less playing time this year, but have got some valuable time. Shay Sears, McCabe. I'm going to start forgetting people as I start throwing out all the names, but there's a lot of depth on that team, so they've been able to move a lot of kids through that position. And now what about the back four, Dave?
Yeah, you're right. So while the midfield is certainly responsible for that transition, winning many balls and getting it up to the forwards, as well as making their own overlapping runs, the defense has generated a lot of offense. But just thinking about the defense, we have Emily Vigent and Taylor Smith in the middle, who play a flat back four. And on the wings, we have Karina Gemignani and Michaela Mon, who are then backed up by Erin Dooling and Aaron Daniel.
And Aaron Daniel, sorry.
And Aaron Daniel has also played some halfback. She's played some forward. Karina Gemignani has come up and played forward. So these girls, in many cases, get directions from Coach Smith, and they do their job for that game. It's a very stingy defense. They're conservative when they have to be, but they also bring the ball down and start the offense, generate the offense. As you said, very stingy. The last 2 years, giving up the least goals. And out of the defense, in terms of offense, we have Emily Vigent, who has been a terror on direct kicks, as well as she generates our corner kicks. And Taylor Smith has also rung the crossbar and scored a couple times, both shooting on direct kicks and being that tall, powerful forward coming in on corner kicks.
Yeah, done a really nice job. So obviously the one group we haven't talked about yet then is the goalie combination. And I think this is what's really unique about Mansfield because it has been a combination this year. Lauren Whitman, a junior, had started the season. She suffered an injury and Kat DeMasi came in and played some games for her. Lauren then came back from her injury, played, got hurt again. Kat DeMasi jumped in, and then Lauren finished out the season. And as I was looking through the stats before coming here, as it so worked out, we played 16 games, and I believe Lauren played 8. Kat DeMasi played 8. And again, if I have the numbers right, Lauren Whitman had 5 shutouts in those 8 games, and Kat DeMasi had 3 shutouts in those games. So, 8 of your games, we're not even giving up a goal as we go through there. I think the strength of those two players, they honestly play very similar. They've got great reflexes. So those quick shots that are coming in, they're down and diving very quickly. They both come off their line very well, though.
Absolutely.
In high school soccer, it's a lot of through balls and you get breakaways. So you've got to make that split-second decision. Am I going to come out and try to stop it, or am I going to sit back? And these two girls really attack the ball and come out and get after it. So they've done a great job in there. And most programs struggle to find one goalkeeper. So it's been a real benefit for us to have 2 goalkeepers through that process.
And Coach McDonald works real hard with those girls. Probably the most difficult shot to repel in high school soccer is that high ball, and these girls have parried out several should have been goals, and they've gotten up to the crossbar and knocked them out.
Yeah, done a real nice job. We should probably mention, I think you'll see Coach Smith a little later, but Coach Kevin Smith has been the head coach there for some years. Robbie McDonald, his assistant, especially working with the goalkeepers, and then Becca Kemp has joined him for the last 2 years. So that staff works real hard with the program, as well as the JVs and freshman coaches. I know after the game yesterday, they were all out scouting. They didn't even go to the team function because they were out scouting other games. So Dave, as we're talking about scouting, we're getting ready to head into the playoffs. Do you have some thoughts on how you think the girls may do?
Well, the beauty of this team is we can play a variety of ways. We're a physical team. I mean, even our smaller girls are physical. Our forwards dish it out as much as our defenders do. And that puts a lot of other teams on their heels. And we have great speed. So I think we can match up with anybody. If we can, if we can keep KP with two world-class strikers to 0 goals in that 0-0 tie, I think our defense is going to hold, and it's just, in these playoffs, finding goals is the tough part, but we got the personnel to do it, from the back line all the way up through the forwards.
Yeah, for sure. I think my brother-in-law asked me last week, is the team, he's a soccer guy, and he's like, is it a finesse team or a power team? And my answer was yes. And I really mean it. I mean, there are thumpers out there. If you go and watch any of the girls, they're not afraid to go into tackles, and there's big collisions, but it's also a pretty game, and I think you'll hear that from Kevin Smith. I know he loves the passing game, and they will connect 4, 5, 6, 10 passes to create that offense, and it's a fun game to watch if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, this group of girls, they know they have the skill to keep it on the ground. So settling the ball, moving it 2 or 3 passes before they get into an offensive set is what's going to drive them to success. Because that's what it takes to break down good teams. You can't just bang it up there. You got to work the ball, and this team can do it.
So we'll leave you with what the schedule looks like going forward, and we don't know quite yet because we're sitting here on a couple days before Selection Wednesday. But November 1st, the MIAA will get together, and they'll decide the brackets. We're going to be in Division I South, which by all accounts for the last few years has been the toughest division in the state. There's essentially 4 divisions. There's a South, there's a North, a Central, and a West. So typically we should have a game next weekend. It'll either be Saturday or Sunday. That'd be the 4th or the 5th. So check your paper or the website. hockomocksports.com has all the updates. So we'd love to see you come down and watch a game. So December 4th or 5th, we'd have our first round game. Typically, you're going to have to win 3 games to win Division I South. And if you win that, you then go on and play the winner of the North, and the winner of that then plays for the state championship.
So it needs a 4 to 5 game run?
It's a 4 to 5 game run. It's a second season, and it's going against the very best. We'll be playing, in our bracket at least, will be the powerhouses like King Philip, North Attleboro, Bishop Fian, Whitman Hanson. There's a whole host of teams, Marshfield. So it's a tough bracket. There's no doubt about it. But as you said, I think if you come out of the Hawk, you can play with anyone. You just got to play your game, and you got to hope the ball bounces the right way.
So thanks, folks. We have the captains here, so we're going to ask them a couple questions. We hope you enjoy that. Thank you. Okay, folks, we now have our 3 senior captains, the Mansfield's girls team, 2017 edition. Allie Bizot, Allie Reef, and Emma Aldo. And Kevin and I are going to pepper them with a couple questions.
So first of all, congratulations, Hockomock champs. Feel pretty good?
Yes.
Yeah, must. Congratulations. So let's start with the big question, I think, which is, a year ago, the program won its first Hawk championship, which was really exciting. But when you did that, you also got to say goodbye to some really good players, including one who was an all-state, Hannah Ryder, scored 18 goals, probably one of the best players to come through the program. So now that it's all over, you can be honest. As you guys stepped up to being captains this year, did you think you had a chance to repeat, or what was your thoughts kind of going into the year?
Well, we knew it was going to be tough, losing Emily and Hannah especially. But since we have such a deep bench and so many returning players, we knew it was definitely a possibility to win the Hawk again.
Love the optimism. You proved it out. It's great. And that's Emily Sullivan you're talking about, who was the center back for you guys last year, who did a great job. Sure, great.
And we know the season isn't just all hard work. What events or fun things do you guys do during the season?
During the season, we have pasta dinners before every game day, and the whole team volunteers at the Columbus Day tournament and the Revs game, and all get together.
So besides playing, you guys are also the captains, which is a great honor, selected by your teammates. So what kind of things do you guys, besides having to do all your homework and all the class stuff, and playing soccer, as captains, what responsibilities do you have?
We focus a lot on making sure the team.
Gets along, behaves on and off the field. Anything else?
How about, I know you guys run a lot of captains practices too, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
So do those run just a couple weeks before the season starts, or how does that all play out?
So we do weight room year round. The captain's practices start at the beginning of summer, then shortly after summer league starts. And as for team bonding, during the off season, we go to First Touch Soccer Camp and Camp Manitou in Maine.
No, so this is really a commitment. This isn't just show up and play the season. It's a year-round activity for you.
Yeah.
That's great.
How does the weight room work in the summertime? What does coach expect you to do in the weight room over the summer?
You're definitely expected to go as much as you can. Mostly Selman is there to help you with whatever you need, and it's kind of like you don't have to get there right on time. You just get in, get what you have to get done, and that's it.
And what time do those start? Because I think people would be surprised to know what time you guys are getting up to go to weight room.
Yeah, so in the morning, sometimes they're at like 7, 8, and then sometimes they're even at night at like 7 or 8.
Yeah, so some long days for you for sure.
Yeah, it's nice and cool though. It's the middle of summer.
Yeah, exactly.
But we see big changes watching the games, from sophomores and juniors to seniors. The strength and the speed, the weight room really makes a difference.
Yeah, and I think some of those players, Ali Bizo even more so in the weight room, as you can see that strength out there on the field, a big part of your game. So as you're kind of wrapping up the season here, although we still got the big part to go, the playoffs, what do you think you're going to remember from this year so far?
We're definitely gonna remember all the love and support from our teammates, the coaches, and the parents. What's kind of unique is that there's certain like groups of people on the team, but when we all come together on the daily to play the sport that we love, it's cool because we all come together as like a family.
That's great.
I think we also will definitely remember the 2 Hawk championships that we won.
Not a lot of kids can go through the program and say they got 2 championships. That's for sure.
Only two seasons so far.
That's right.
Out of the whole history.
Yeah.
What's different about you're playing your senior year than the other years leading up to this?
Your senior year is really different because it's your last year for everything. So, like you want every game to count, and a lot of the younger girls look up to you.
Also, you see like all of your progression and all the hard work you put in really pays off as you put all your effort into every game because it's your last chance.
Well, congratulations. It's been really fun for us, me and Dave, to call the games. I know all the all the fans that have been there have really enjoyed it. It's been a blast watching you guys play, and good luck as we go forward, right? Let's go maybe another 3-4 games would be real nice.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
you.
Good job, girls.
Thanks.
Well, folks, I'm here with Coach Kevin Smith, the Mansfield girls varsity team. Ready for the playoffs, which are going to start in just a couple days. We're waiting to see who we get in the first round. Kevin, I had a couple questions I wanted to ask you. I've been watching your girls' teams for the last several years. What would you say is your primary look of the team you like to see? What are the elements of a team that are your favorite?
I have a lot of, 23 years of coaching has morphed my coaching style and what I sort of have this ideal vision of what my teams be made of. And so I have this, tell the girls, I have this this dream, this play, this constant game in my head that I'm kind of get them to. It involves a lot of one-touch, two-touch passing, movement off the ball, where kids are interchanging positions all over the place. There's excellent foot skills in 1v1, a lot of attacking, great defending, but overall, kids who can just do anything on the field. And they're moving, they're passing, there's combination play. It's exciting, it's quick. It's just something that you want to come watch. It's like, wow, look what they're doing out there. So that's what we train for every day.
Yeah, and we're definitely seeing it with the team this year.
It's been fantastic.
Yeah. What do you think this team does particularly well?
Number one, they have a culture. They really believe they're there for each other. You know, there's no individuals who say, hey, I'm only here to get my time in and to move on. They fight for each other. You know, at senior night, the kids were so excited to get to some seniors who don't play very much, get some time in. And you can see the joy in their faces for their teammates. And so that's everything's the foundation of the culture, because when everyone wants to be there, they want to do things that are way beyond themselves. And so we always start there. And this team has a great culture. It started last year, and it just is just blossomed this year into something awesome. And then, you know, we have kids who are just ultra talented. And they use their talents in, you know, our passing game, the possession. We have superior defenders. We have kids who attack. They do all the little things. There's a lot of movement off the ball. The kids work their butts off, and they have this never die attitude to do whatever it takes. Because I'll play whatever position you need, coach. It doesn't matter. I'll do this for you, coach. I'll do whatever the team needs. I'll do that. And so we do a lot of good soccer things well, but we do a lot of, you know, team chemistry, a lot of culture well, and that makes us, you know, just want to fight all over the place for each other.
Yeah, we just talked to the three captains, and they talked about their experiences from Mansfield youth soccer all the way up to now, and being seniors, and how it's different than the last 2 or 3 years of varsity and coming up through Mansfield. That culture is, you know, starts when they're in kindergarten. It's a huge program.
It does. It's a great program, and you know, except for the kids who move into the town, you know, they're right before high school or during high school, they've all grown up in MYS. And so we're very thankful for what Mansfield Youth Soccer does, and give them the opportunity and allow them to just dream of what, you know, they want to be and become great soccer players. And we're seeing it blossom right now.
The competition at the varsity level is tough. How does the Hawk compare to the other leagues around Massachusetts?
Well, you're asking a biased coach. I'll say it. I say it all the time to the girls. I say it to their coaches. I think we have the best league in the state. I really do. And you know, I'll back it up. You know, I'm a math person, I'm a stat person, so I'll throw some stats at you. I mean, I know this year we have 2 teams in the top 10. In fact, we're 6, and King Philip is 8 in the state. So how many other leagues have 2 teams, let alone just 1 in the top 10? Right now, the only other team is the other league is the Atlantic Coast. You got Hingham, who I think is number 3, and Whitman-Hanson is number 7, I think. But we also had North, Franklin, Oliver Ames. 5 teams cracked that top 20 this year.
It's a battle.
Atlantic Coast has had 2, Hingham and Whitman-Hanson. No one else has cracked that top 20. So, yes, they might have 2 teams ranked higher than we do, but we have a lot more. If you look at the state tournament, we have 5 Division I teams made the Division I South section. That's incredible. And of the 12 teams in the Hawk, 8 are in the state tournament. And year in, year out, we get 7 to 8. And how many other leagues can boast that? I don't think really any league can boast that. So it's just tremendous. You know, we have you know, tons of players who go off and get full ride scholarships. And if you look at the year to year, every all Hawk list, I'm sure half of them are Division I scholarship athletes, and the rest are playing D2, D3. So you have great athletes, great players, and great people coming through our league.
So the big question: what do we think? What do you think are prospects here for this year's state tournament? It's what is it? 3 or 4 games to get to the ultimate game. It takes 2 to get out of our region.
It's 4 to get to win the state sectional finals. All right, so win 3, the 4th game is the state sectional finals, and then the 5th is the regional finals. You play against the North Shore champ, and then you win that game, you're playing against the Central West champ in the state finals. So you have to win 6 games to win it all. And prospects, I like what we have. I'm real excited for them, but when you get down to those top 16 teams, anything can happen on any given day.
Low scoring and
low
one
scoring,
goal means a big difference.
That's what happened last year in the state tournament. Overtime with King Philip didn't go our way, but anything can happen. But I like what we have. These girls are great. I like the team. I like, you know, how well we play defense. We have key pieces everywhere. So I'm real excited. Real excited.
Yeah, well, that comes through. The kids are excited too, and they're a
They
good
are.
bunch, and they seem to really like each other, and they do play awfully hard.
Yes, they do. It makes my job easy.
Great. Well, good luck in the tournament.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me tonight.
And folks, I hope you enjoyed our season review and tournament preview, and go out there and watch some soccer. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Mansfield High School Boys Soccer Season Review and Postseason Preview. I'm Jack Cooney, and I'm here with my fellow booth mates.
I'm David Cass.
Mark Murphy.
Just a couple goals tonight. We just want to get a little PR for the soccer team. The girls soccer team did one earlier, so the next few days or next week you'll see us. And we don't know when the seeding is coming out. It'll come out later, but we want you to get out to alumni, and we don't want you to watch the games on cable. We want you to watch them live. So we'll talk more about that later. So we're going to do a quick season review. The boys had 18 games. Mark or David, if you want to walk us through how the season went.
Well, well, we both have very similar opinions, slightly different breaking points in the season, but a very successful season nonetheless. But there were, in my mind, three distinct parts to the season, which I actually labeled. They started off the season with a couple ties against Brockton and Foxborough, not in that order, and then they went on a win streak of 6 games. But in that win streak, it was a bit of mixed bags where they would get ahead against teams they should get ahead and then let them back in the game and then survive. So I call that part of the season their identity search. They weren't really quite sure who they were yet. You know, they were tying teams that they should beat. They were tying teams they should maybe not beat, and then letting teams in that they probably shouldn't. And then what we call the mid-season lull, which I think you'll hear the captains refer to as well, where they basically went 0-2-3. 2 losses, 3 ties against some good teams, but also some of the Davenport, or what some people refer to as the Hawks Small division. We seemed to struggle in that period of time. And one of the things I looked at is we had played 6 games in 12 days in that period of time. And also in that first game, which actually was a good tie against Olive Rams, we lost a spark plug in Nick Wisniewski for several weeks. And then we sort of went into that lull. But when we snapped out of it against Taunton, we started what I call the third stage of the season, or the Hockamark quest, where the boys probably said to themselves, and Coach Sheridan probably said, we need to start winning like every game here. And they actually went on a streak here of 4 straight shutouts, which gave them a chance to win the season with a win over Olive Rams the last day. They shut them out. Unfortunately, they did not score. So they came 1 point short, but that's my breakdown of the season, those 3 different sections.
Thanks, Mark. Without recapping, David, without recapping the numbers, what did you see in, like, just say that the identity stage, the mid-season lull, and then the strong finish? Did you notice anything watching the games, or?
Well, I mean, Mark and I have discussed this, and
Yes.
I agree. When you look at the beginning of the season, the first couple of games, the Foxborough and Brockton ties, the Foxborough tie, the team did look like they were kind of searching to figure out their identity. They had some of the new players into the starting lineup. A lot of the rotations that the coach was trying to use were new to their development. Their second game, they went up against Brockton. Now Brockton has turned out to be one of the top teams in the state, looking most likely to be the #1 seed in D1 South. And they played them strong to a nice 2-2 tie. Brockton has very good foot skills, but the team played well. And after that, I think that kind of catapulted them into their next section through their first run through the Kelly Rex, where they did well. I mean, they shut out Stoughton, 5-1 win over Taunton, and then they got into what everyone looks at as the big games, the KP and OA games. They beat KP 3-1, then tied OA 1-1, but that was almost a bit of a disappointment, coming off of leading 1-0 deep into the game and then ending up with a tie. So when you come off of that, you then go into your kind of more of your Davenport section. I think there's some fatigue that sets in when you play that hard for that period of time going through your Kelly Rex. You then go to the middle of the season, and I think they've seen it over the last few seasons. They do have a little bit of a lull when they re-enter the Davenport section. But once they got through that, once they lost to Brockton, and I think that Brockton loss was a great developmental game for them, being down 2-0, coming back to tie it, and then unfortunately losing on a PK. But after that, they rode that into a tie in Milford, which they played well, but then they ran into a complete shutout in the last 5 games, where their defense really found its feet, and that was the part that kind of brings them in and hopefully leads to a good result going into the playoffs.
Great, thanks. And I know some of the audience out there doesn't like to talk about jinxes, but since we've mentioned, it's been 5.5 games since the opponent has scored, so knock on wood. Let's hope it continues. We're all about team, and they recapped that we're 10-2-6 for the season. But we're going to talk a little bit now about the roster composition and then also some individual stats. But if you know soccer, if you watch soccer, it really is about the team. David, there's 26 kids on the team. We're not going to be able to list all of them. We have a list, but we might let's mention as many as we can. I know. Can you give the breakdown between seniors, juniors, and sophomores? Maybe some key injuries and.
Well, I mean,
Go ahead.
we have a very senior heavy team this year. This is the year that the senior class, which has been really kind of the wave of talent that's kind of carried through the last 3 years, is now going to be graduating. And when you have 16 players of 15 players with that kind of talent going through, with the captains, very solid captains, plus a great defensive pairing. Nick Ferez has been a very good goalie. But when you have that coming through, there is not as much opportunity for the younger players. But when they have gotten their opportunity, they've played well. I think if you focus more on to start with the defensive end, which is what I know better, you had 2 juniors, 2 seniors. The 2 seniors played outside back and stopper. The 2 juniors played at the other outside back and sweeper. And then you had another junior come in as kind of the 5th man through the rotation. Unfortunately, Ethan Brocast was out. He was looking to be an outside back and potentially stopper player during that season. But that bodes well for next year, in that they're going to have at least they should have 4 good defensive players coming back next year to be the center of that team in the back. And they've also, I think, got a very good goalie coming in. Sophomore goalie Anthony Salisbury could have been a starting goalie this year. I mean, he's good enough to play that way. Ferez had a great season, but Anthony, I think, is of the quality to carry that forward next year. Mark's more familiar with the middle of the field and the strikers, because that's more senior heavy.
It is. In fact, there's very few in the class when they do rotate in Luke Devine, occasionally Caridi. But for the most part, forward we had Cullen Anastasia, who was our leading goal scorer this year. He was actually our PK taker.
Designated PK.
Designated PK taker. And I believe he made everyone he took this year. I
think it was 4 for 4.
Yep.
Yep.
Or 5 for 5.
Oh, 5 for 5. I apologize.
And,
We're going to fact check this afterwards.
Yeah, we
always have fact checking afterwards.
I trust Mark's stats.
Behind him, Sam Hyland, the senior captain, he was a pivotal. Early on, he had a ton of assists. He was we like to call him the DT, the designated thrower, because he takes all the deep offensive throws, because he can put it right into the box, and that led to, many of his 11 assists during the year, which he led the team in assists. And the 2 of them, both Cullen and Sam, are among the Hawk leaders in scoring. They're definitely both in the top 10. But in reality I looked at the stats today, and I was surprised that there was 11 different goal scorers. There was 14 different kids who had points on the team. And in reality, we started off playing a deep roster, and as the season went on, I think the coach tightened up his substitutions a little bit, leaned on his seniors a lot more as the season went along, because it was their team to win this year or not, and he tends to do that anyway. He has to give the seniors a chance. And so, but despite that, they having 14 people get points, I thought was very valuable. The seniors didn't actually mention Nick Ferez. I was surprised, because us in the booth every game, as the season went along, wow, he's really getting better. Really, he's like, early on, he's not that experienced of a keeper. He hasn't played a lot of soccer in his life. He's played the last 2 years pretty hard. And he was unbelievable by the end of the year. And he actually won the Franklin game by himself at the end of the season with some ridiculous saves. So.
Right, and the Oliver Games game was on the road, so I don't know if you'll get a chance to see on cable. He was outstanding. They're one of the top teams in the state, and Ferez blanked them. So. And
he developed his ability to come off his line. He developed more of a feel for the game as the season went on, and was able to take balls through balls that he didn't feel comfortable with at the beginning of the season. He was jumping on with aggression towards the end of the season, which is part of the reason I think that led to the 5-game goalless streak to close the season.
Yep. The only other player I want to mention for stats is Luke Savoy, junior midfielder, who plays sort of an alternate role with Sam Hyland. Seems like one of them goes forward, the other one goes back. They don't really play a flat middle that much, but he was the designated corner kick taker for the most part. Sean Lenzillo took a bunch as well. But Luke hit such a great ball. Everybody wanted to get the end of it. And he ended up with 8 assists, and I think all but one of them were off corner kicks.
I think the first assist he had was a through ball to Sam Hyland in
the Stoughton game.
In the Stoughton game, and then after that it was all on corner kicks. And I think between Cullen, Jared Gabrilowitz, and Sam Hyland were able to find there. I think Nick Wiz might have gotten 1 or 2, all able to find the other end of that.
They did.
Great. So again, we don't want to emphasize the individual stats. It is all a team game. And another point, when you guys were talking about Nick Ferez, it's not in the script to talk about the coaches. We didn't ask them, so they didn't politely decline. We just, it's all about us in the booth. But Nick, we'll talk about the coaches, but just start with the goalie coach, Frank Durant, who did an outstanding job with Ferez. Head coach Steve Sheridan, I think it might be his 8th or 9th year as the varsity coach. He's been in the program a long time. Bruce Bauk is the JV coach. Tommy G, if you guys can pronounce his last name,
Gina Ludis.
Gina Ludis,
Thank
is
you.
the assistant
Thank
varsity
you
coach.
for saving me from doing that one.
And I think Bruce's
right.
son, Jason Bauk, helps out. So there's like 3 or 4 on the sideline every game. They put a lot of time into it.
And Bobby.
And,
Oh, you
and
can't
Bobby
give a freshman
Antroni, Mr. Hollywood. If you ever seen him, you know why he's called Mr. Hollywood. But we just, and the coaches, they really let the kids play. In my opinion, they all have unique styles. If you've seen the games, Sean Lanzillo, Sam Hyland, Nick Hyland, 3 different captains, completely different styles. Mark didn't talk about his own son, Jackson Murphy, who missed quite a bit of last season due to injury, but he was I think one of the absolute keys of the team this year.
I think if you see when
When he
they
was
came
healthy.
back, when they came back off of their little lull, I think you'll see that's also when both Jackson finally got healthy from the quad and Sean got healthy from the groin. And unfortunately, they were down Wiz a little bit. But then once he came back in, when you add those 3 in, for a couple reasons. One is their offensive ability is well known, but the fact that they also track back and help out on defense is when again, like I said, that middle controls whether or not the defense is on their heels the entire game, and they did a good job the last 5 games to really take the pressure off the defense.
High school soccer is very physical, brand of soccer compared to some levels, and there's a lot of nicks and a lot of banged up players on this team. But now we have a week of nothing but getting ready for the playoffs, getting healthy again, because our last game was last Friday, and we're going to talk about the postseason soon, I assume.
Yep, that's a great segue.
Yes. So why don't you?
We're going to
lead
jump
with
into
that?
it because you can tell we enjoy this. We kind of eat, sleep, and live it. So my wife's not going to allow me to adopt another kid. So this is my final go around. But we'll talk about the postseason. It's Monday night
You got
here.
my kid next year.
Yep, we got Ethan Brillcast. It's Monday night here. You don't know this because this is live. The seed is going to come out Wednesday, November 1st, mid-morning. So by noontime, the kids will know when they're playing, probably Friday or Saturday or maybe even Sunday. So please check your paper or check online, those of you that are sophisticated. But come out to Alumni. It's a great game. If you haven't seen much soccer, you'll be amazed how physical it is, how fast the kids are, how skilled they are. And just to plug the girls team, they may be more skilled. They're very technically sound. The girls team only had 1 loss and they tied for the Kelly Rex division title. So
That might get into the conflict of whether we play Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
Yeah.
Is that the girls also have a home game. Last year, when I looked at all the Division I South boys games, were on Saturday night after the seeding, except for Mansfield, who played on Sunday night. And I think there was a conflict there as well. So.
Was it 2 years ago? They both played the second round. They both played up. I think it was either Needham or Natick, and they played back to back on the same day.
I need them, yeah.
that was great.
I don't know if they do
That's
that
great.
for a first round set.
No, no, they don't. Usually.
Usually not. Well, let's talk briefly. So we have one of our statisticians, Matt Savoy. Shout out to you,
We have
Matt.
to give Matt a shout out.
He painstakingly came up with some preliminary seedings. These unofficial. It looks like we're quote unquote locked in as the number 5 seed in Division I South. So if that happens, we'll probably play a number 12 seed or maybe an 11 or 13. And David and Mark have taken the time to look at some preliminary first round matchups. Again, this is all for fun and it's high school soccer. But David or Mark, what do you think we could possibly be looking at in the first round?
I'll let you do the matchups. I guess.
Well, what I have for the matchups, based again off of Matt Savoy's rundown on what he sees as the winning percentages, is we look to be a number 5 seed, facing what would likely be either Zavarian, BC High, or Weymouth. Maybe a Hingham might move around depending on, I guess, the last game coming in here. Mark?
There's a few games that still have to happen. I checked out, even Natick could fall down. If they lost, they would drop into that same group of bracket. And it comes down to coin toss if it's a tie. So
Right, and currently the standings have Zavarian, BC High, and Weymouth all literally tied.
Yep.
So we can't really determine which one we get, but obviously BC High has been a well-known program there. They seem to be having a bit of an off year. Weymouth has been pretty consistently top end, but not necessarily in the top 5 or 6. But they've had a pretty good program over the last few years. And Zavarian is a bit of a question mark. I don't know. Based on my little research, they don't really have much of a track record going back.
Yeah, they play strong teams. The Catholic Conference, I don't think is as strong as the Bay State Conference, which is your Needham, Natick's, and Weymouth's. And who's the top team this year?
Wellesley.
Wellesley.
But Catholic Conference, they only have a small conference schedule, and they play a lot of tough teams out of conference. So looking forward, again, the tournament is single elimination. If you lose, you go home. Last year, we talked with the captains. Unfortunately, they lost in double overtime to Attleboro. But let's talk about some of the top 4 or 5 seeds, maybe 1 through 4, maybe 6, that if we are lucky enough to win our first round, who is going to be the favorites in Division I South?
My personal opinion is the Bay State League is the most top to bottom difficult league in Division One, Division One South. So Wellesley is, standing on top of that league with just 2 losses. And there's probably going to be 4 or 5 other teams in that league make it into Division One South. That just shows you the rest of the league's balanced, and they seem to be well above them. Their goal against average looks pretty good, and they've beaten Needham, they've beaten Natick, they've beaten some really high quality programs. So although they are the number 2 seed to Brockton, right?
I think right now Brockton was sitting as a number 1 seed.
So
I don't know
Brockton
they-
has not
Brockton
lost.
hasn't lost a game.
The good thing for Mansfield is we play Brockton twice this year.
And so we know their game, and we've, like I said, we tied them 2-2, and then we were 2-2 going into the final 5 minutes where PK made the difference.
Would you say Brockton's similar to Oliver Ames' style of play, David? Or?
No, I'd say they're
Okay.
very different. I think
Okay.
Oliver Ames is much more of a possession style, although they rely like on Cardozo in the middle. They still also play a much more possession style. They're also physical. I found that Brockton is much more of an individual ball skills and speed. They did pass well, but they also rely very much on their individual speed to take around the end. They challenge our outside backs pretty consistently in the games that we played against them.
I just don't think they play as tough a schedule as Wellesley.
No,
That's
no,
why
they don't.
even though Wellesley's in the top seed.
Yep.
And the 3rd seed would be New Bedford,
Right now, the 3rd seed's New Bedford.
who we didn't play in the preseason like we do every year.
Yeah, I think
But we
Yeah.
played them. We played them a bunch last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one other team I think is up there is Silver Lake,
Correct.
which Mark and I have older sons that played Silver Lake 4 years ago, and they were the most physical high school soccer team. They were like 19-1 that year, Silver Lake, and they beat Mansfield.
They
handily.
actually
But,
won D1 South.
yeah, I think they're a
Okay.
little bit weaker than
Yes.
4 years ago, but they're a great program.
I
Silver Lake.
mean, I actually can tell you a little about Silver Lake has about 4 or 5 players that that Ethan, my son, has been lucky enough to play either club with or play against in club. They have a striker up top, Pat McMahon, who I think is probably one of the top scorers in that league going for multiple years. A phenomenal striker. Their goalie Justin Keating, probably one of the better goalies in their league as well. And they have a couple of solid midfielders who play for FC Coastal in the NPL league. So they have some nice talent right down the middle. I don't know the depth that they have. I would honestly, in all the things we've seen and all the games we've watched, I haven't seen a team yet that has the depth that Mansfield has. I've seen some teams that may have a little better top end 1 or 2 players, but not consistently, 9, 10, 11 players deep on the roster.
Good.
So we could keep this going all night, but I'm going to ask them
But we
both for
better not.
one choice without looking at their notes. Who would you say could be the one surprise in the bracket? Somebody that's like below a 10 seed, that it's going to win at least one game and maybe win 2 in the tournament. Like, just give me one team that we're gonna say afterwards. Mark was right, David was right,
Well,
because I don't make predictions.
I'll say below 10 seed, I got to go with Braintree, because Braintree is always one of the top 4 teams in D1 South. Again, another Bay State team that I haven't looked at their schedule. I'm not that much of a geek that I look at every team schedule to see how balanced they played and whether
Yeah.
they're in all their games or not. But I just trust their program to bring. We've played them in the past too. That they're
Yeah, I think they won it all last
And
year. In fact,
if you're looking for based on the seeding a long shot, I'd have to go with Braintree as well. If you look at the conference they come from, the depth of that conference versus what you're seeing from some of the other lower seeds, I think they probably have the hardest schedule to get into the round. So I think they probably have the better talent to move forward and surprise people.
And if you've been listening all year, David has copied every single one of Mark's predictions all year long, so there's no surprise with that.
Oh, and
David.
I'll admit that when we do our broadcast, I just listen to what Mark says and say it because he's not on mic, so I get credit for everything he says.
the ghost in the background that nobody hears. Yes, that's my role.
I
So
sound a lot smarter than I really am.
as hard as it is for us, we're going to wrap it up. But I just want to say something. We talked about 26 kids, and Mark went through like 14 kids have scored points, but all 26 of those kids, including Ethan, who was in a boot all year, they all showed up to practice all year. They were at summer camp conditioning. They played summer league, spring league, and they've been playing soccer since most of them 5 or 6 years old. So every single one of them, and I, as a parent, I realize not all of them have the opportunity to play on the field as much. So I want to shout out to every single one of them, especially the 15 seniors. They really deserve a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
So that's my sentimental part of it. And just some closing thoughts. We brought the seniors in. You're going to be able to chance to see it on cable. But the postseason's going to be over. Hopefully it'll be to a state championship or somewhere in between. But David, Mark and I as kids will graduate. What do you see for next year? And I think we've talked about it briefly. We'll probably have 8 returning juniors. But what do you think of next year in the next 2 to 3 years of Mansfield High? And we'll try to make this brief because next year is next year.
Well, what I say is looking at next year, I mean, like you said, we have, since this was a very senior-heavy team, My son's injury kind of opened up an opportunity for Derek Muth to get a lot of experience and for Matt O'Donnell to come in and be the kind of rotational player. So I think going forward, they have a very solid, probably back four goalie, and then probably middle of the midfield. But we're looking at the outside mids and the strikers. It's going to be kind of a developmental process. I think there's some talent at JV. I think there's also some talent on the roster that, because it was so senior laden, didn't get as much playing time as they may have in another season. And I think there's a lot of younger players that are going to be coming in, and a lot of it's younger players that are siblings of people on the team. We got little Lanzillo coming in, little Highland, little Elsner.
Yeah.
So we got kids that
Gurnan, maybe.
I don't know. I don't think Gurn's going to Mansfield.
I'll strike that.
But I think there's a lot of that type of younger siblings coming in. So I think there's what has been developed kind of with this grouping of seniors is going to carry on for a while. Talent comes in waves in high school, and I think fortunately we're at one of the peaks right now for Mansfield soccer. I'm hoping to think that the drop off following this year isn't going to be too precipitous, and they'll be able to carry forward and be a solid contender for the Hawks.
Because they're strong in the back, they're going to stay in a lot of games no matter what. Right, next year? I mean,
The key's finding goals.
By the
That's
back
gonna
and
be-
the keeper and the
Yes,
four defenders.
absolutely,
That'll
yeah.
keep them in a lot of games. There may be a lot of 1-0, 2-1 games. There's not going to be any 4-0, 5-1 games next year. You never know. You don't know what's going to happen to the others. OA, 21 seniors.
Yeah, KP's losing a big chunk of seniors. So
Some
but
really good
there
players.
could
So
be
you
a
never
real
know.
inversion of the Hawk
Yep.
this year. We could see teams like Attleboro and in the Davenport teams like North Sharon's losing a lot of seniors. Teams like that kind of start to move their way up
Yep.
as they develop, as they bring in kind of waves of players
It's
themselves.
cyclical. Yep.
So we're going to wrap it up. As you can tell, we're geeks here. And if you don't watch this, when you see the three of us, lie to us and say you did watch us and we were all fantastic and you want to see more of it.
They would
But
have had to have
please,
seen this, though.
please check out Sun Chronicle or Hockomock Sports to see when the game will be. It'll probably be this weekend sometime. Check out the girls, check out the boys.
If you follow Twitter or Facebook, I'm sure that the boosters
Yeah.
will be posting
Yeah.
when these games are going to be running, which I follow to find the stuff out myself. It's an easy follow if you're into social media at all.
And I will personally buy you a slice of pizza if you tell me you watch this show. So anyways, good luck to the boys program. Good luck to the girls program. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mark. And thank
you, Jack.
Thank you, Jack O'Neill from Mansfield Cable for allowing this opportunity to do this. Thank you. Hi, I'm Jack Cooney. I'm here with the Mansfield High School boys soccer varsity captains. Right here we have Sam Highland, his twin brother on the left, Nick Highland, and in the back, Sean Lanzillo. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
This is the first time we've done this, and the only thing we're trying to do is promote boys soccer in Mansfield from the varsity level all the way down to youth soccer. So we're going to talk about a little bit later on how they did this year and the postseason, but we're going to just ask some general questions now. First up, this is a collective question for any of you guys, but what were your preseason goals coming in? I know it's a long. You guys played 18 games now, but do you remember what your goals were? Any one of you coming into the season?
So first, we wanted to make sure we qualified for the playoffs and the tournament, which we did pretty early on. We wanted to give a shot at the Hawk title, which we also did. And we want to go pretty far in the playoffs, so we'll see what we can do in the coming weeks.
That's great. And we're going to review this later, but they just missed the Hawk title. They played the final game against Oliver Ames. They tied the game, but they came in second by 1 point. It was a great game into a great season. Nick or Sean, what would you describe, and this is from a team perspective, the highlight of the season? And I know the postseason's come. Hopefully that'll be the highlight. But is there any one game or one moment that, in your mind, that defines the season?
I think our last two games against KP and OA were our two big games. We had a little slump in the middle of the season there with like Sharon, North. And then those two big games against our two big Kelly Rex rivals, those were some big games, big win and big tie.
Great, that's good. It's funny you mentioned that because my last question for collectively was, what's the turning point of the season? David and Mark will be on later. We're talking about the break of the season to thirds. You guys were 6-0-2, and then I think 0-2-3, and then finished strong 4-0-1, which is how you want to finish the season. But so Sean, the middle of the season, I don't really call it a slump, but team-wise, and I know personally you were out injured, but what do you think turned from the strong start to the struggle in the middle, and then how did you guys overcome that, just in general?
Well, I think the slump happened from just that away game. Like right after that game, we played really hard for 80 minutes, and then we were all really tight. We were all really tired, but we overcome that slump, and we just said, hey, we got to keep pushing. We got to go for this Hockomock title, and Unfortunately, we didn't come up with it, but we still played great throughout the season.
That's great. Thank you. Individual questions. First of all, we're going to talk to Nick Hyland. He's the only 4-year varsity member. Not only is a member of the team, he started for 4 years, and Coach Sheridan himself will tell you he doesn't put kids on freshmen unless they're going to play. So kudos to you, Nick.
Thank you.
I know your first 2 years you played outside D.
Yep.
And the last 2 years, I believe, you played stopper.
Yeah.
Can you tell the audience, maybe some of those that aren't familiar with the difference between outside D and stopper?
Yeah.
Like what what the differences are?
So stopper, it's like a center back position. It's very defensive generally, but also it's a little bit more forward. Like I'm able to get up and attack and kind of help the middies and the forwards get into the offensive zone.
That's great. And just briefly, and I know none of you guys like to brag at all, so we're going to talk about defensive members. Unfortunately, before the season started, we lost a key member, Ethan Brocast, a junior. He started all sophomore year. Can you talk a little bit about that, but also the roles that Sam Nugent, Derek Muth, and help me out here, who else? Harry Braid.
Braid.
Yeah,
Can't
just
forget
talk
Harry
a little
Braid.
bit about the loss of Ethan and how those guys stepped up.
Yeah, so going into the year, losing Ethan, that was like an awful loss. Like we were really worried about that to start the season. But I think to a lot of people's surprise, Muth has had a great season. He's really stepped up into his role. Also Sam Nugent, who we weren't really sure how he'd be back there. I mean, he's a great player, but he had never played sweeper before, I don't think. And he's done an amazing job at sweeper. And then Harry Braid, just old reliable back there at outside back. So it's really a strong defense back there.
That's great, thanks. And Harry's a 3-year starter. He's 2 seniors and 2 juniors on the back line, so 2 of them will be back. We hope Ethan's fully healthy. And Nick, the last and most important question is, as a defender, you don't score many goals, but you scored a key goal this year against Milford, which I think the final minutes you tied it up. Can you describe how that felt?
I was just glad that the goal. I don't know if anyone saw that, but the keeper had it in his hands, but he actually put it over the line. So I was just really glad that they were able to call that a goal, and that we were able to tie against Milford, which is a key tie for us.
Great, congrats. We're
Thank
going to
you.
skip his twin brother Sam. I'm going to go to Sean Lanzillo. Hopefully we have hundreds and hundreds of people watching Mansfield Cable. If you've seen Sean, what's your number? I don't even know.
17, I think.
Number 17, we'll check that. But Sean plays outside mid, and not like everybody, but he could play on the left side or the right side equally effective. He's ambidextrous, whatever that word is, if you're ambi-footed. I could never get it right. But Sean, for those of the viewing audience that's not that familiar with soccer, what would you describe the role as outside midfielder in general?
So outside mid, usually you have to be a little bit more faster just because you're making a lot more runs. Because usually you want the ball going between the defenders, and the center midfielder would play the ball in. So you need a lot of speed. I don't know. Outside mid is just a creative spot. There's a lot of opportunities that you can make a move. You can cut in, and you have another guy going out to make another run. So there's a lot of opportunities outside mid. That's what I like about it.
That's great. And if you see Sean and you're familiar with soccer, most teams Sean might be in center mid, but because of his speed and endurance, he really cuts back a lot. So he really creates a lot of opportunities. Can you, like Nick, can you talk about your fellow midfielders? Maybe don't talk so much about Sam, but the other midfielders that play alongside you, including the kids that started, and maybe the 1 or 2 key kids that come off the bench.
Yeah, absolutely. Your son, John Cooney, he started out up top, but we found his true calling was outside mid because he's so fast and an absolute beast. He's awesome with the ball. He's always getting back, and he always wins the ball. Jared Gabrilowitz, he's awesome to the team. He never backs down from anything, even though he might be one of the smallest guys on the field. He has one of the biggest hearts. We got Jackson Murphy, who's clinically technical. Absolute beast on the field. He's really really skillful with the ball, and he knows what he's doing. And there's some other guy named Sam something, I forget.
Sam Hyland.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, being a beast is a good thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. And I know we don't like to talk about injuries. I mean, I think you've lost 2 games all year, and I think coach doesn't make excuses. But Sean, I think there was a stretch there you missed 3 out of 4 games, and it happened to coincide with the team slide. Nick Wisniewski was out then, Jern. But how did you? Is it frustrating not being able to play? And then did you say you took your time coming back, or Can you describe what your injury was and
Yeah.
the process coming back?
Well, I was really eager to get back. Unfortunately, my groin was giving way, and I had to sit out a few games. But I was really proud of the boys. I mean, that game against Brockton, we were down 2-0, and we just kept fighting. We lost 3-2, but it was a great game. Like, I thought we controlled that entire game, at least the second half. But I just wanted to get back as soon as possible. I think they played great without one of their outside mids, but I'm good to be back.
Great, thanks, Sean. And we're going to keep you just for another minute or two because I know Mark and David are dying to get on camera. Just talk about postseason's a little bit tricky. It's I think and David and Mark are talking about. It looks like you could be them a 5 seed, and you were last year, and you unfortunately lost in double overtime. But how do you prepare for that, knowing that your season, especially as seniors, it could be one and done? But I mean, do you just look at it as any one of you can answer like one game, or how would you approach that?
We know we gotta go out there and play our hardest for 80 minutes because it could be our last. So it's a big game coming up, and we know we'll get a home game, and we'll get one more chance to play at Alumni, and hopefully we can go out and bring it because we know it could be our last. We gotta play with a good game plan, play smart, but also play hard the whole game.
Great. And would you guys describe in general as captains, who's first of all, who's the most vocal among the three of you?
I definitely
think it's
say,
Sam.
I'd definitely say
Okay.
that's Sam. Yep.
But would you say you're a confident group, like in captains and the seniors, or would you guys say you're a little humble or a little bit of mixture of both?
I think we have a good balance between the captains.
You want to be a little cocky, right? You want to be
Yeah.
a little bit on edge?
Yeah.
It's good.
I think as a group of seniors in general, we're a confident group, and we believe we can beat anyone out there.
That's good. And good luck. We won't know until this Wednesday will they be seated when they're, who their first opponent is, and hopefully you come out to Alumni. But I do have one more question. It's really about the future of Mansfield Youth Soccer. What advice, we're gonna lose 15 seniors this year. These three and 12 other gentlemen, great players, have different roles. But next year, I know the JV team only lost 2 games, and this freshman coming up. I think Sean is a freshman, and the Highland boys have an 8th grader. Good players. So, what advice do you have for like next year's team, and also for kids in maybe 5th, 6th, 7th grade about someday wanting to be on the varsity, and because I think the program has had success as the 3rd straight year of making the postseason. But I'd like to hear all three of you, like, what advice for next year's team and for kids in youth soccer right now.
So one thing I'd say is just, we are losing a lot of seniors this year, but there's so many great players coming back. We'll have Ethan back next year, and then like basically a full back 4 back for next year, and then some really great players, Luke Savoy in the middle, Luke Devine in the middle, and even young players like Colin Caridi, and our goalkeeper Tony, sophomore keeper. He's ready for the big time. So I think despite losing so many players, there's a lot of players that are coming back. It'll be a good team next year.
Youth soccer, like kids, just say a kid like in 5th or 6th grade, do you encourage them to play club soccer, or just say a kid is on the C team now, which we don't like to use that term, but do you encourage them to keep playing, or any advice to, improve your skills or team approach? Anything, Sean?
Yeah, absolutely. High school is it's a place for opportunities, and it's a new environment. So you're gonna grow skillfully, and you're gonna grow as a person. So I definitely think you should just be pushing as hard as you can, go to your limit, and just see what happens along the road.
All right, one final question. This will be quick. Do any of you have plans to play soccer in college, or maybe another sport, or anything like that?
Yeah, I would hope to play in college.
That's great. It's great to hear. Those of you at home don't know, these kids are all outstanding students. They're involved in the community, and we hope you come out to Alumni Field to watch at least the first home game, maybe the second. Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Glad to
Thank you
hear
very
it.
much. Thank you.